This is Do It for a Living, your source for inside information on the future of automotive performance.
I was doing what I wanted to do. It wasn't a bad way to wake up and go to work. I didn't dread, going to work in the morning anymore, and I was my own boss, so I could do whatever the hell I wanted to do.
What's holding you back from starting or growing your business into what it can be? Well, if you're listening to this, it's not a lack of information. What you're about to hear is all you need to get motivated and start making waves. Do It for a Living podcast details the journey of today's true players in their own words. Find out how they broke out so you can too. The time is now. The time is always now. So, Mr. Chris Harris.
Mr. Reed Lundy.
Been a long time. We've been friends for a long time.
Yeah.
And today I just want to kind of talk about Xenocron, race spec, you as a business owner, and how you're doing it. So let me kick this thing off with 9 years ago. I think it was about 9 years ago. You were a one-man show operating out of a gas station and burning chips for Hondas, getting involved heavily with pgmfi.org. And now you're a successful tuner, an EFI University instructor. You're involved in two companies, Xenocron and Race Spec, and you're a family man with a wife and two kids. So a lot going on. How do you balance all of those things?
Well, it probably started actually before the gas station. 2002, I bought my first Acura Integra. I knew absolutely nothing about cars at that particular point in time. I could probably...
How old were you?
2002, I was 24. So two years out of college. I graduated from college in 2000. 2 years out of college. I'd never been into cars. Bought an Acura Integra. Went online, bought an eBay intake, put it on, thought that was the coolest thing in the world, started going to some meets, rode in some other guy's turboed Integra, and decided that was something I needed to do. I also got screwed over by a mechanic at the same time, like pretty hard, and decided that I wasn't going to let that happen again, so I started learning a little bit about cars. So between the two of those things, that first Acura Integra was kind of my jumping point, learning various things. I've always tinkered, always taken things apart, putting them back together, tried to put them back together, that sort of thing. So, I just kind of got into the tuning aspect, found Honda Tech, found pgmfi.org, met a couple of the guys, and just kind of got into it. And then before I actually burned my first chip or did my first computer, I took Ben Strader's second ever EFI University class in, I think it was maybe September of 2003, somewhere around there, maybe August. And that's where I really started to learn, understand, and figure out tuning as it may be. But from there, I got my own little tiny garage behind somebody's house, split it with a buddy of mine. I think we paid $175 a month between the two of us. And that's kind of where I started burning chips and meeting people for street tunes and going out in the highways in the local area and doing some of that stuff. At that time, I had a full-time job, working for the man. And
doing what?
I did a variety of different things. When I first got into it, I worked for a commercial photo lab, so we did large format graphics. We wrapped buildings, we wrapped buses, we did backlit signage for malls and
So
stores.
What was your role there?
I was a customer service administrator, assistant, sort of sales assistant type of deal. The job I took was with a gentleman I actually met in college. I had to do a sales write up, like a 20-page write-up for a sales class that I had, and I drove all the way down from Rochester to New Jersey, rode for a day with the sales rep, and thought he was pretty cool, and he was definitely making a lot of money and doing well, and so I became his administrative assistant, his customer service rep, and I handled all of his customers for him as far as the internal stuff goes, and the goal was to, when he retired in 3 years, take over all his accounts and have, $3 million worth of sales to, be able to make a living taken care of as a sales rep.
Right. So that's not something that you're interested in, right? Like, you're doing it because you're going to make some money at it?
I was interested from the standpoint that was my major. I mean, graphics and imaging and that sort of stuff was my major. I knew about it. I was interested in
graphics, like graphic design?
Partially. My major was imaging systems management, so it was part photo, part printing, part business, and graphics and some of that other stuff as well. So it all revolves around the printing industry, I guess, from one standpoint. But as the times changed and more of that stuff went digital, I guess that kind of faded away. One of the bad things that happened to the company that I worked for was the World Trade Center went down, and we had a client. One of my sales reps' clients was about an $80,000, $90,000 a month client that had all the graphic light boxes in the World Trade Center in the subway tunnels. And when that went down, we lost that business. So our company went from about 100 employees down to 40 or 50. Wow. I hung on to my job, but the writing was on the wall. So from there, I changed to a different company. That didn't work out. I was unemployed for a little while. Then I became I became the only salesperson for this up-and-coming company that was owned by a larger conglomerate. And 3 months into my job there, they announced they were going to fold and start selling off divisions, and so all business development halted. So I sat there. That was the point where I sat there for about 3 months at my desk, got paid, couldn't do my actual job, so I was on Honda Tech all day, researching, learning, looking at things, understanding. I was doing a little street tuning in my car, going back and forth to work.
Using freeware.
What freeware? Turbo Edit, Ghetto Dyne, Uber Data.
This is bringing back memories.
I know, it was all that fun stuff. But
so talk to me about something. When did you know that you could do this for a full-time, like as a full-time job? Did you go straight from that desk job where you're researching all the time, and then how quickly did it ramp up into something that you were going to take on full time?
I didn't start the gas station until 2005. So as I was doing all that stuff in 2003, it was about 2 years after that. I went to work for another company, which was a really good company to work for. I learned a lot there. I was the purchasing manager there, so I did a lot of purchasing. So now I'd had customer service experience. I've had sales experience. I've worked for tiny, small companies, and I've worked for huge companies. This one was kind of an in-between. And from there doing purchasing, I kind of had all the aspects to go out and kind of start my own business. And as my little website sales and some of that stuff started growing, I realized, at some point I'm going to have to make a decision. I was asking...
And you were Xenocron.com at this point?
I was Xenocron.com at this point. Xenocron.com came around because my screen name on all the forums was Xenocron, and I just wanted to kind of showcase my car, actually. I just wanted to show that, hey, I turboed this thing and did that. It wasn't actually a sales pitch. I didn't have any products to start. End of 2005, middle of 2005, I decided I got to start thinking about how I'm going to do this. So a buddy of mine who I was in the garage with and I decided that we were going to try to start, some sort of performance-type business. We found a gas station, which was a fairly cheap investment. My buddy had really good credit, so he got a small business loan. We bought the gas station, and I quit my job, and we went from there. It was a big jump. It was certainly extremely scary. My buddy wasn't quitting his job. It was just me. I was the one quitting my job to go leave and start a new business.
So talk to me about how that feels. Like, you don't know if you're going to be able to make it, but you know that you have to. So because you have to make it happen, you're going to.
Well, I don't.
Do you feel that way?
I don't remember exactly all the feelings I was having at that particular time. I don't remember feeling too anxious, but that was probably because I was a little young and dumb. If I had to do the same thing now, it would probably be way different. But at the same token, I knew what I needed to get done. I knew what I could do. It was kind of the beginning of a lot of this stuff that you and I and some others came up through, and we were getting it on the ground floor, and I knew that was a good place to start. I had online sales, you know what I mean? I had consistent daily online sales type of deal, and the business that was there was already kind of going. It wasn't making huge volumes of money. I think I paid myself... I didn't pay myself a single cent for 6 months of the new business. And then once I once I started paying myself, I think I paid myself about $400 a week for the next 3 years. Like, it wasn't that glorious, right? You know what I mean?
Yep. It's not all Hollywood like a lot of people think.
There's a little bit of cash and stuff like that, and you get some extra stuff here and there, but a lot of it just went back into the business and day to day, and it was just me and my brother-in-law actually worked for me at the gas station. He still works for me today, and. It wasn't glorious, that's for sure. But I was doing what I wanted to do. It wasn't a bad way to wake up and go to work. I didn't dread going to work in the morning anymore, and I was my own boss, so I could do whatever the hell I wanted to do. So,
right.
But yeah, it's a big jump. I just don't remember being that anxious about it, to be quite honest. So I guess I knew something, but yeah.
So that's that.
That's that.
So you came up from gas station. Now you're doing, you're involved in race spec with Joel. Joel's building just incredible motorsports wire harnesses. Your online business is supplying parts to wholesalers around the world. Lots of good things are happening. But explain the worst experience that you've had in business. Is there one particular situation where you fell flat on the floor, felt like you were ready to quit? I know that we've all had that feeling, like when just nothing is going right. Take us there.
The biggest one was shortly after I started the gas station. I had a really good employee who kind of came and he walked up one day, lived down the road, and he wanted to pump gas. And I'm like, okay, you can pump gas. It's, $10 an hour, whatever it was. In New Jersey, you're required to pump everybody's gas. You always have to have a gas station attendant. So I had to have somebody pump gas. So he wanted to do this. But soon enough, this guy was bringing in mountains of business because he used to be a Cadillac mechanic. And he knew, when he heard a fan belt squealing that it needed to be changed, or he would check people's oil or look for coolant leaks or, look at tires, do this. And he was actually bringing in business through the gas saying, you need to change this, you need to change this, you need to change this. So I got so overwhelmed, I asked him, do you actually know how to do any of this stuff? He's like, yeah, but I kind of just want to pump gas. And I sort of pushed him and made him become a mechanic because he was way better than me. He was way better than the other guy that worked for me. He became my main mechanic. But shortly after that, it turned out he had a wicked heroin problem that I didn't know about. And one day I came into work and the race car that we had been building had been stolen from the shop. The safe with all the night deposits from the day before was gone, and the store had been raided of all the cigarettes from the night before. The problem is the alarm never went off, so it was a little bit weird. And then halfway through the day when I got the report from the alarm company that he had used his own code to come in at about 4 o'clock in the morning, it was quite evident who was the one that did all this.
Wow.
And he fessed up to the cops, and that was just a terrible day. And that's the day I decided I wanted out of the gas station, and then I was only going to do the parts and the tuning and stuff on my own. So that was kind of my day from hell. How
do you recover from that? Like emotionally, that's got to.
It was.
I mean, you trusted this guy. This was your guy. This was your go-to guy. You're trusting him.
He was my guy at that point. Yeah, it sucked. I mean, it took a while. It took a while for sure. But I look at the business like a train, right? The business is a train going along in the track, and people jump on the train, people jump off the train, and nobody's going to get in front of the train to stop it. And so,
That's awesome.
I mean, seriously, it's a train. If you want to get on the train and be a part of the train, you can hop on, but you're not going to stop it. So, we just kept going. Like I said, I left the automotive business. My partner stayed on and tried to run it for a little bit longer, but I got out of it. I asked my brother-in-law if he wanted to stay there and work for my old partner, or if he wanted to follow me, and he came with me, and I started slinging parts out of the basement of my house at that point, and just kind of kept the train going, I guess.
Wow. So it's your only source of revenue. It's kind of been spooling up over a couple of year period. Well, at this point,
it's not my only
is it all online?
It's not my only source of revenue. My wife had a full-time job as well, and she does pretty well. So I could take risks and and have full confidence that if I took a risk and it was a bad investment, that I was not going to fall flat on my face. So that's always been a huge help, is the fact that, my wife has always had a really good job, and she supported me as best she could. So, but keep going.
Nice. So switching gears now. So that was your worst experience. Your heroin addicted employee breaks into your business at 4:00 in the morning and steals everything, including your race car.
Yep.
So yeah, I got it. Talk to me about the opposite end of the spectrum, a project or a point in your business that you're most proud of, the proudest moment that you've had in business. Take us there.
I mean, if I had to think of it quickly, it probably would have been winning a race a couple of years back with one of our all-motor cars. We won Honda Day in 2013 with the all-motor Civic called Diet Pepsi. Yep. That was probably one of my proudest moments. That
was right before or after you guys went 989?
Right. I don't remember all the times anymore. The 989 might have been an unofficial time. We had gone 9s that event. We went 995 on our opening qualifier, and because Maps didn't have his 9-second license, they DQ'd the run, which would have been number one qualifier for the event, but they DQ'd the run, and so he literally had to run the entire event, letting off or getting on the brakes before the marker, and he still ended up winning, which was quite amazing, honestly. So, that was part of it too. That kind of made it a little bit more special. We went 9s in the heat in August, at a Honda Day, and then we ended up winning the event. Everything just went right for us that event. Nothing broke. There was zero maintenance to do on the car. Everything stayed intact. And then it all came together in one particular spot, from his driving to my tuning to Bello helping out and Joel being there as part of the crew managing team, that sort of thing. So that's probably one of my proudest moments.
Nice. So I'm going to say, from that to this, a lot of people look up to you. Like, you've done something that I think a lot of people want to do, take it to, a full-time job in a successful business, and something that's growing and expanding. In one sentence, why did you succeed when others have failed?
Probably because I have a little bit more patience for what many would consider stupid questions.
Good enough. I'm going to leave it at that.
Okay.
I don't want to expand on that one. Okay, so we're going to go to quick answer questions. So this is all stuff. Just give me a couple of sentences here. Answer this stuff as quickly as you can. I'm going to rapid fire this stuff at you. So tell us about a game-changing product that you've seen in the last year and what makes it a game changer. This could be electronics. This could be software. This could be anything.
I mean, from what I want to play with, I guess it's going to be Motec M1 ECU. Yep. It hasn't come out in the last year. I think it came out 2 years ago or something like that. But the more I learn about it, play with it, that sort of stuff, it seems like a real game changer. Simply from the fact that you can do your own firmware development, and it allows people to make their own features, basically for software. And it's a Motec product, so the hardware is top notch.
So what makes it a game changer? I mean, to me, it's the fact that you can control CAN, and to my knowledge, that's the only thing available, to just pick up the phone and purchase, that you could develop your own interface with, new vehicles that are that have CAN communication.
Yeah, I mean that's definitely one of the biggest game-changing features is that you can adapt it to any vehicle. You can swap out the factory ECU, which talks to 20 or 30 other devices over the CAN network, and if one CAN device falls off the network, then the whole thing falls apart. So if you can take out the factory ECU, put this one back in place, and none of the other modules know any different, I think that's a game changer. There's a couple other ECUs that can do that. I think this one is just a little bit more open and friendly for doing that.
So every vehicle coming off the line now, I mean, and for the last few years or for the last probably longer than just a few years, has CAN controls, where the ECU interfaces with the body module, trans module, and a bunch of other devices. So talk about Motec M1 and what it can do as far as communicating with those devices. Like, what are its capabilities?
I'd have to look up everything perfectly, but I think it has 3 different CAN buses built on board. So, some cars have multiple CAN buses in them. You can't just throw one device on, one bus and have it talk to multiple different buses. But with this device, if you had 3 different CAN buses in one vehicle, it could talk to all 3 different buses, and it could technically send signals from one bus to the next if you programmed it that way so that everything can talk together. So CAN bus isn't something that I know a ton about, but it may be something that I have to learn a little bit more about, coming through, moving forward.
Yeah. Okay. So now talk to me about a software resource. Is there a software resource? This could be something as simple as like Google Calendar or Basecamp for keeping yourself organized and scheduling appointments. How do you keep everything going? You got multiple tunes throughout the day. You got to know where you need to be. How do you schedule yourself?
I do everything through, my iPhone, iCloud, I guess. My iCloud's integrated with my Outlook calendar. My wife and I have a calendar for family stuff. I have a marketing calendar with my marketing guy. I've got a tuning calendar for my tuning stuff, and it all just goes on my iPhone. So, it's just constantly telling me when I need to do something, where I need to be. And it's extremely functional from that regard. So you have to be extremely organized to be able to be as efficient as I try to be. So I do it all through there. I wish I knew about better options or could explore some of that stuff. But once you get used to a certain routine, it's hard to break that and do new stuff too. So.
Right, you're kind of entrenched. You got all your whole life's tied up into one software program.
Yeah, basically.
What are you going to do?
Exactly.
So, how about a favorite app? You're on your iPhone all the time. What's a favorite app? You got something you use every day?
I use my Dunkin' Donuts app every day. Probably twice a day. I don't even carry around cash anymore. I just go to Dunkin' Donuts and flash the app and use the coupons and get free coffee and all sorts of other stuff. So that's definitely my favorite app. Lots of coffee to get me through the day.
Awesome. So, how about a most useful tool? This could be fancy, like a picoscope, oscilloscope, or something as simple as a power probe. This could be a dyno tool. Give me a favorite tool.
I mean, I guess my dyno is kind of my favorite tool. I've got a main line.
Okay.
And it can do a lot of different stuff that other dynos can't do. Number one, the dyno can actually do CAN. So if I can feed a CAN signal from an ECU into the dyno can read all the channels from an ECU and graph them and display them versus all of the power and torque figures that a normal dyno reads. The dyno can also send data back to the ECU, so I can send power and torque into the ECU so that I can look at power and torque figures and other stuff as well in the ECU software. My dyno is also a voltmeter. It's got 2 0 to 30 volt basically voltage inputs into it. So I can use it to troubleshoot various voltage things or voltage drops. So I can put a voltage probe on the battery to see what the battery voltage is at. And then if I want to see if there's a voltage drop to a particular device, I can put a second probe on that other device, and then I can do a differential voltage between those two to see if there's any particular voltage drop. That gets really, really handy. It also does pressure sensors and EGTs and thermocouples and all sorts of other stuff as well. So when I'm using tools, I'm on the dyno. I don't really work on cars too much, so I don't have a lot. I'm not a big Snap-on whore or any of that stuff. I've got the scopes, I've got the power probes, and I use all that stuff. I just bought a new voltmeter that has a remote display. That's pretty cool. It's Bluetooth, so I can take the remote display and I bring it with me. So when I'm upside down in a car with a 10-point cage and I'm trying to probe something or have somebody probe something, I can just look at the voltage on a remotely and tell somebody.
Who makes that?
Fluke.
Fluke, always good stuff from Fluke.
It's backlit and it's Bluetooth. It's pretty sweet. But the dyno's probably my favorite tool.
So mainline dyno's got an OBD2 interface. So talk about that. I think that's pretty cool. You can just plug into the OBD2 port and receive all the data from the OBD2 port. Is that right?
It does. It does. It has CAN and over USB. It also has OBD2. So I've got an OBD2 port. You plug right in, and it gets all of the standardized, SAE OBD2 data that it can get from a particular car.
And can overlay that with horsepower and torque on your screen.
Yeah, it's great for TAC signals. So if you have OBD2 connection on an automatic car and you can't get a good TAC signal, you can get it from the OBD2 port. And it's fast and accurate, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's a couple other things. It's kind of integrated with EFI Live, so you can create custom PIDs in EFI Live, and you can actually send them back and forth to the dyno as well. I haven't used that functionality. I just know it exists. But you can, I can do it on a variety of different stuff. But it's got OBD2, it's got CAN, it's got serial interfaces. So the dyno controls all of my fans in my dyno. I've got a main dyno room fan that'll suck air out. I can turn that on and off from the keyboard. I've got vehicle fans, in front to keep the intercooler cool or the radiator cool, and I can turn them on or off via keystroke. And it's got, that's all serial based. It's pretty neat.
That's really cool. I think for new cars, it's nice to not have to get under the hood to get a TAC signal.
Yep.
And like you said, on an automatic car, you can't use roller speed because it's not always going to be very accurate. So
pretty much never accurate.
Right, right. It's pretty much it's exactly never accurate unless you're in lockup. Okay, so talk to me. You used to have a Dyno Dynamics.
Yep.
Now you've got a mainline. Pros and cons, or why you switched. Let's talk about that. I see all the features of the mainline. That's cool.
The features is why I switched. The features and the support. Todd from mainline is just, always on top of things. I've got him on WhatsApp. He's in Australia. He's like 16 hours difference. So I just have to check my little, time clock on my iPhone and decide if it's a appropriate time to text him, and I can text him any questions I have, and he always gets back to me within a day. So the support is just really good there. They're constantly updating me with new software, new features, and it's all around it's a great dyno. my Dyno Dynamics was awesome too. I loved it. They gave me good support. I used it for years and years. I actually used it so much in how many year period? 2012 is when I bought this one. So about a 5-year period. I used it so much that I actually wore my rollers down.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
I was going to have to, pay upwards of $8,000-$10,000 to get them re-knurled. So I figured if I was going to just put that much money back into it, I might as well get myself an all-wheel drive one, and one that has some fancy bells and whistles. And Todd from Mainline really gave me an amazing deal, and he actually took my dyno in on trade, so I didn't even have to fuss with trying to sell it to somebody else or ship it across the country or do this or that as well. So it just made it easy.
Got it. Okay, so how did you spread the word? This is kind of shifting gears again here. How do you spread the word about tuning services? Like, you're on the dyno all the time, but to get to the point where you can afford a dyno payment, like, is that just through going to the track, meeting people online?
For me,
PGMFI?
For me, it was all about forums. At the start, It was all about forums. It was Honda Tech. It was Gen 2 Integra Club. It was Team Integra. It was PGMFI.org. It was HondaAcura.net. It was, I can't even remember all the forums that I used to be on a regular basis, but I literally would just go on those forums because it was a good way to pass the time, and I would help people out. I would learn things, but if I saw somebody that could use help, I would help them out. And I really think that simply by going on and helping people out, people were like, well, if you know how to do this, how about you just do it for me and get it done? And that's really how chipping ECU started. I posted up, hey, look, I chipped my first ECU, and some guy contacted me and said, can you chip mine? And I said, sure. For a while, I think I was doing it for free, and then I decided, shit, if everybody wants me to chip their ECU, I might as well charge something for it. And if I can charge something for it, then I can use this to pay for my hobby. That's how it all started. I really just wanted to earn money to fund my hobby. This stuff is expensive. And I didn't have a fantastic job. I wasn't making anything, out of the ordinary, and I live in one of the most expensive areas of the country, so the overhead here isn't cheap in any facet to live or whatever. I just wanted to pay for my hobby, so I started selling a few little things, shipping a couple ECUs, making people's lives easier and help them out as I could on the forums, and it just kind of bloomed, rather quickly from there. Nowadays, it's definitely much more going to the track. It's a lot of Facebook. It's a lot of Instagram. And most of my tuning business, I think, is word of mouth. So word of mouth or repeat customers.
Okay, so that's something I want to interject on here. Everybody is answering questions on the forums, or maybe not everybody, but there's a lot of know-it-alls.
Sure.
The difference, I think, between the guys who really know and the guys who are pretenders is it starts to catch up to you. You'll stop. The phone kind of slows down. It doesn't keep ringing if you really aren't helping people.
Sure.
If you really are helping people, people continue to call. When somebody asks that person that just ran a number or did whatever, they're going to say, yeah, this guy helped me out. So if you're really not helping people, if you're not really solving a problem, the phone's not going to ring. So that's one of the big things that I see from my business and for you is that we're actually helping people achieve what they're after.
Yes, I think so.
Okay, so to wrap this thing up, to end this conversation, what is the future of automotive performance for you? Or where do you see it going? We're all gonna have electric vehicles with hybrids in 10 years?
Man, I wouldn't mind, tinkering with some electric vehicles. Shit, all you got to do to add power is just add another battery. So, that's pretty easy. There's not a whole lot of moving parts there. So, you're going to break, you're not going to be melting pistons and, destroying $2,500 cylinder heads. So, if they all went to batteries, I'd be right on with that. But where's it going to go? I think it's just going to kind of to chug along, and the advancements in the performance world are all going to be made by manufacturers. Turbochargers keep getting better, engine parts and cylinder heads and camshafts and intake manifolds and all that stuff keep getting better. People get more knowledgeable. The cars that used to be expensive get cheaper, and so for every single person I see parting out their car, I still see at least 2 or 3 people getting into a new one. So it's still growing. Maybe not the Honda market as much as it used to, but it's still there, and people are going to be doing this forever. So, until gasoline runs out of existence and we pump all the oil out of the ground, there's still going to be racing and gasoline injected engines and that sort of stuff as well. So, I don't have a lot of time to think about 5-10 years down the road. That's one of the things I need to do a little bit better as a business. But 1-2 years down the road, I don't see too many things being different except some of the players in the game. That's about it.
Some of the people on the train, right?
Yeah.
Or jumping in front of it?
Yeah, jumping in front of it. Sure.
So what's the future for Chris Harris, for Xenocron, and for Race Spec?
Well, Race Spec is a fairly new company. We basically do really high-end motorsports wiring. We don't do tuck jobs. We don't do, please fix this wire harness for me. You give us an idea of what you're after. You give us a budget. Usually the budget is pretty significant. And, Joel designs it, lays it out, and basically hand makes every single harness that we do. One of the things for Race Spec that we're trying to do right now is to come up with some.
Can I jump in here?
Sure.
Talking about Joel?
Yep.
Joel is incredible. You gotta give it to Joel. Like, he's an artist. The stuff that he produces is just insane. If you guys don't know,
you definitely need to interview him.
Yeah, I got to talk to Joel for sure. But he's a good guy.
But Joel is amazing. He's definitely a savant in many senses of the word. But the funny part about Joel is that he used to sling motors and do transmission swaps and all that stuff. Like, he was a grease monkey for years.
Like all of us, right? We all just wanted to get involved in cars. We didn't know what our niche was going to be.
He was a grease monkey, and he found himself about 3-4 years ago when tragedy struck. It's pretty funny. I mean, I got into this because a mechanic screwed me over. Joel got into wiring because Hurricane Katrina hit. It's pretty funny how that usually works.
Lemons out of lemonade, or lemonade out of lemon.
Yes, exactly. But as far as the future, I mean, we're just going to kind of keep building and doing what we do and helping people out and, servicing customers and shipping stuff all over the world. So that's what we try to do.
So how do we connect with you and your company, Chris?
We can go to xenocron.com. You can give us a call at 845-504-5340. You can email us at just about anything at xenocron.com, tuning to xenocron.com, wholesale xenocron.com. They all go to one place. So my guys are pretty on top of that stuff. And you can go to racespekonline.com to check out Joel's stuff. We're still building the website. He's more on Instagram and Facebook with some of his pictures and that sort of thing. So.
All right. So Instagram for Joel, email for Xenocron. And for more details about Chris Harris, check out doitforaliving.net. We'll have links to Xenocron's website, RaceSpec's website, and all the cool things that they're doing. So, hey, Chris, appreciate it, brother. Thanks for the talk.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for listening to Do It for a Living. You can find out more about this guest, this show, and even details about what we just talked about at our website, doitforaliving.net. Check out the Facebook page at facebook.com/doitforaliving and tell us who you want to hear from. And most importantly, subscribe to the podcast. Click subscribe. Do it now. Seriously. I'll wait while you grab your phone. Open up the podcast app. Tap the subscribe button. When you subscribe, you help us gain momentum and attract more high-level guests. Thanks for listening, and good luck.